Hello YouTubers, this is Cessnaace back again with another video, a LaserDisc update video. Before I begin, I would like to shout out a fellow YouTuber, Culture Dog. Hi Sam. Culduredog. Culture Dog. Hopefully I spelled that correctly because I'm dyslexic. Now, I'm going to be showing these in alphabetical order. I have a whole mess of them over here. I have more that have come in that are over there, and I have more that are on their way, including at least 8 Japanese live-action releases of science fiction films. Okay. This is a silent film called Blood and Sand. This was pressed by LaserDisc. Released by Image under license from Kino, who licensed the film elements from the Black Hawk Films collection. One of the neat things is if you go to the page for this particular title or any title that's part of a collection, there will be a hyperlink. You can click on the hyperlink and it'll show you every title released as part of that collection. For example, there are 29 titles in the LaserDisc database that were released on LaserDisc as part of the Black Hawk Films collection. Their film elements, from my experience, are the best around, so I always look for that logo. I'm sure you noticed there are 2 punch-outs in the jacket. That was done whenever a title was discounted. They would punch a hole in the jacket, or they would cut a piece of the corner off. Okay, this film was released in the US in 1922, runs 61 minutes, is in black and white, of course, was originally released by Paramount, stars Rudolph Valentino, Leela Lee, and Nita Naldi. This disc also includes an 11-minute short from 1923, Rudolph Valentino and his 88 American Beauties. Now, something that Sam and I, well, we brought up, I think it was me who brought it up first, but anyway, LaserDisc was a pressing plant that had problems. And for some reason, I have the number 3 stuck in my head as related in relation to that pressing plant. See, that plant kept shutting down and reopening. They'd have a whole mess of defective discs. Publishers would stop using them. They would shut down. They would retool. They would reopen. Then they would get to a point where no one was using them again. They'd shut down, they'd retool, they'd reopen. They either reopened 3 times or shut down 3 times. I don't remember which. Now, when a title is got any defects like laser rot, technically you could call it just rot, the person who owns it can report it. And so you can see how many people have reported laser rot or rot on a title, and you can even see who those members were that reported the rot. There are no reported cases of rot with this title. Now, as I believe I mentioned, there are 29 titles known to have been released on LaserDisc from the Black Hawk Films collection. The oldest one that I have in my collection 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, a silent film from 1916 that is color tinted. They used different color tints depending on the setting. The underwater setting, they would use a blue tint. There were scenes in the desert. Didn't get that with the Disney version now, did you? That would have a sepia tone type tint. And interestingly, that particular film, the underwater scenes were shot in the exact same place that Disney later shot their underwater scenes for their version that came out in the 50s, which I also have on LaserDisc. Anyway, just thought I'd throw that out there. Whether you decided to catch it or not is up to you. Okay. Another silent film. These aren't all silent films, but I love silent films. This is a Charlie Chaplin film called The Circus. This is a really cool release, and it's entirely in CAV, constant angular velocity. That's what that stands for. If you're not familiar with CAV, the maximum you could get on one side in CAV was 30 minutes. With CLV, or constant linear velocity, you could get up to an hour, unless they used a CAA, which no discs were ever marked with CAA, or labels or anything like that. But the highest capacity CAA disc that's been found was a CAA 65, which could fit up to 65 minutes on one side. But Pioneer did make a CAA 70. It's just no one has found one yet. Gatefold jacket. If I forgot to mention that when I first started using the LaserDisc database, there were about 35,000 titles in there in the LaserDisc format. There are now over 61,000, and they're still adding more. That is really cool. It's what they call, on the back, chapters and verses. It lists the contents by chapter and by frame number, which is a cool feature of CAV. For example, side 1, you could go to chapter 6, which is Clown School. You could go to frame 35,586, and he doesn't quite get it. Frame 38,769, so he gets tossed out. 39,731, a donkey adds insult to injury. LaserDisc player remotes had a numeric keypad on them, so you could enter in the frame number. This includes a number of extras. Well, I'll just go by the list. On side 4 is entirely extras. Titles, notes about the music, opening song, and credits in 1970 reissue. Chapter 18 is the unused footage with commentary by David Shepard. Chapter 19, Catastrophes and Curiosities, Production Records. Chapter 20, Set Sketches and Press Book Materials. Chapter 21, Production Summary. This release, by the way, is window boxed, so that the image will be in a box. That was so that they could display the entire image without having to crop off any damage. It was frequently done with films that had damage to them and it couldn't be repaired. So they would put it in a window so that you wouldn't see the damaged part, but you'd get as much of the film as possible, because some CRT TVs would overscan. So see how they ordered that in here. To ensure that all the film's picture area was captured, this film was window boxed during transfer. As a result, some television sets will display a black border on one or more sides of the picture. This is a normal condition for a film such as The Circus, well, such as a film that's in the window box format. Okay, this disc, although a U.S. release, was pressed in Japan by Mitsubishi. No reported cases of rot. Okay, now this is still sealed. I've never seen this film, but I've heard about it. Elmer Gantry, starring Burt Lancaster. Now, he plays a slimy, crooked, dishonest preacher. That's how I understand it. The film was originally released by United Artists, hence the MGM UA logo. However, it was released on LaserDisc by CBS Fox Video. This is a standard CBS Fox formatted rear jacket from the era. They would have a line of stills on the top, then they would have the plot, and then over here would be behind the scenes information about the film. Also starred Gene Simmons, Arthur Kennedy, Shirley Jones, Dean Yeager, and Patty Page. Dean Yeager was also, I believe, in 12 O'Clock High and Singing in the Rain. Now, at some point, this was marked down to $14.95 because it has a sticker right there. But that's not what I paid for it. This is obviously pan and scan. Gatefold jacket. Catalog number 4582-80. 146 minutes. I think I forgot to do that with the other two releases. Let's see. Blood and Sand was released ID 8076DS. The Circus was released let's see, 3432-84, which is a strange number for CBS Fox. Most of my CBS Fox LaserDiscs, from this era anyway, have a catalog number that's -80 or -85. This is -84. Okay, I'm a huge Laurel and Hardy fan. That was made by Pioneer USA, by the way. No rot. This is Laurel and Hardy and Friends, Volume 2. There were 8 volumes. Pressed in Japan by Kuraray. No reported rot. Now this is an unusual one. Well, first of all, it starts off with a rare Laurel and Hardy short, in one way anyway. They have 2 versions of it. This was their first sound short, unaccustomed as we are. It includes the sound version and the silent version, because at that time not all theaters were equipped with sound. 1929. The version with synchronized sound on disc, which they used an actual disc in the theater, runs 21 minutes. The silent version with Vitaphone music runs 18 minutes. According to the description, it uses alternate takes and in some cases different gags entirely. Okay, this is followed by a 20-minute short starring Charlie Chase, Rosina Lawrence, and Clarence Wilson. I've got a cat over there who's distracting me. 20 minutes, black and white sound from 1936. Okay, that's on side 1. Side 2, which is in CAV, has The Lucky Dog, Stan Laurel, Oliver Hardy, Florence Gillette, produced by Bronco Billy Anderson. Bronco Billy Anderson was the first person to star in an American film that had a story structure. Um, this particular silent film, Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy um, aren't teamed together. Oliver Hardy plays a heavy in it, and Stan Laurel is in it, but they're not a team yet. This was produced in 1919, but he was shopping it around to various studios, and he finally found one that would release it, and that was Metro, prior to them becoming Metro Goldwyn Mayer. They released it in 1922. And then that is followed by Our Gang Follies of 1938, Spanky McFarlane, Carl Alfalfa Switzer, Darla Hood, Buckwheat and Porky, and Henry Brandon. That is from 1937. Okay, this is release NAL 2709, released by distributed by Image Entertainment anyway, from the Nostalgia Archive. I don't think that's Nostalgia Merchant. They didn't change their name. Nostalgia Merchant's still around. And as it so happens, I still have my Nostalgia Merchant Laurel and Hardy VHS tapes, pre-records, because they are stunning, and most of the DVDs I have seen that have come out in the years since do not look as good as those Nostalgia Merchant VHS tapes. Explain that however you wish. Okay, this was part of that sale, and it's a duplicate in my collection. Laurel and Hardy and Friends, Volume 3. Pressed by Curray. It has let's see, one of the oddest and funniest, rather, films ever made by Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy. It says Habeas Corpus, 20 minutes, from 1929. Then it has a short starring Glenn Tryon, Oliver Hardy, and Vivian Oakland from 1926. This is missing the opening sequence, but it is the best known copy to exist. Along Came Auntie. Harvest Hands on side 2, 15 minutes, with Charlie Chase. Despite being billed as Charlie Chase, the star of the very creative Hal Roach one-reel comedy is actually Paul Perrott, who was the real Charlie Chase's brother, James Perrott. He directed many of the very best Laurel and Hardy comedies. And oh yes, the real Chase, named Charlie, spelled it, well, Charlie. Charley, not Charlie. From 1923. And Hayfoot with James Geeson, William Tracy, Joe Sawyer, Noah Berry Jr., and Elise Knox, 46 Minutes, from United Artists, 1941. Release NAL 3138. Now I have other Laurel and Hardy releases already in my collection, including a double feature. This is a different one, but only one's a feature. The technical title of this one is Laurel and Hardy's Laughing Twenties and the Devil's Brother. The Devil's Brother is on disc 2. This is a gatefold pressed by Pioneer USA. Side 1, which is the Laurel and Hardy's Laughing Twenties. That includes several shorts. Putting Pants on Philip, which was their first co-starring film. Liberty, Wrong Again, From Soup to Nuts, The Battle of the Century. I'm getting punchy. This is release ML 102340. I think most of my MGM LaserDisc releases start with ML. The other double feature I have is actually two feature films from MGM. Bonnie Scotland and Pick a Star, which is also known as Movie Struck. Okay, this one is sealed. Before he directed It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, Stanley Kramer was known as a director of message films. Oh, I've lost this sticky on the back, so I can't tell you who pressed it, but I do know it doesn't have any reported cases of rot. Home of the Brave. This was released in 1949 and tells the story of a black soldier who, well, he's the only black soldier in this platoon or whatever during World War II, and he gets all kinds of racial garbage from flack from the others. He finally, well, according to the plot on the back, he saves the life of someone else, one of the white soldiers, and he winds up paralyzed. And here you can see a white soldier carrying him out. Produced and, well, actually this was produced by Stanley Kramer and directed by Mark Robson. But the point is still valid. He was known as a message filmmaker. This is from Republic Pictures, release LV21845. And it has a hole punch in it too. This one is sealed. It has a sticker on it of $34.95, all from Laser Audio and Video. Also, the list price at the LaserDisc database for it is $34.98. Well, there you go. They were selling it for 3 cents off. Pressed by Pioneer USA. No reported cases of rot. Billy Wilder co-wrote the screenplay for this one. Starring Greta Garbo, Mervyn Douglas, Ina Clare, directed by Ernst Lubitsch. Produced for LaserDisc by George Feldstein and Peter Fitzgerald. Released by MGM UA Home Video. Release ML102797. Okay, this one's not sealed. It is one I've had before. There are no reported cases of rot, even though it was pressed by DADC USA. That'd be Sony's U.S. plant. Sony had 3 plants. One in the U.S., which had problems. One in Japan and one in Austria. None of the ones that I have that were pressed by them in Austria are defective. They're all good. This film is from 1961. The original Fabulous Adventures of Baron Munchausen. So, if you want to make this a companion piece to Terry Gilliam's The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, you can. This is the version that was dubbed into English, although it has the original non-English opening credits. This is a Czechoslovakian film, or Czech film, but there's no Czech in it. Released by Image Entertainment under license from American Video. Release ID 7294PO. It's actually been so long since I've seen this film. The only thing I can tell you about it is that it struck me as weird. Has a hole punch in it. And releases from Image from this era would just say, significant sequences of this motion picture have been chapter encoded for your viewing enjoyment. No list of the chapters or anything like that. But at least it has a paper sleeve with poly lining. I think Image pretty much used those entirely. Pioneer liked to use those condom things. Okay, this is another sealed one, pressed in Japan by Kure. American release, no reported cases of rot. Okay, this is another Stanley Kramer film, The Pride and the Passion. Gatefold jacket. Cary Grant, Frank Sinatra, Sophia Loren, Theodora Bickel, or Bickel. I think he was in The African Queen. And a whole host of names I can't pronounce or aren't familiar with. This one, produced and directed by Stanley Kramer. Colored by Technicolor. Photographed in VistaVision. Interesting that this was released by MGM UA. Oh, includes multi-audio. I didn't notice that. I might have seen it when at the LaserDisc database, but I didn't notice it just now. Until just now, as far as looking at the jacket is concerned. Produced and directed by Stanley Kramer and written by Edna and Edward Anhalt. The Pride and the Passion is a lavish production that was shot on 25 locations, costing $3.8 million and featuring 9,400 extras and 1,500 head of livestock. This was 1957. 2-disc set. Side 3 is in CAV. Now I'm curious what the... wait a minute. Now I've got it. The digital tracks feature the film's soundtrack. The analog tracks isolate the music and effects. So if you want a free soundtrack album, you can get the LaserDisc. There are several LaserDiscs that are like that, actually, from MGM. You can tell when there was somebody that headed up the LaserDisc division of a studio that liked LaserDiscs, because they would go all out on their releases. There was a time when MGM didn't really go all out. They used Panascan transfers. They would stick 2 discs in a jacket not really designed for 2 discs, and so forth. And then suddenly they got more deluxe, and they would use gatefold jackets and for discs when there were more than two discs. Okay, this is another important film. Pressed by Pioneer USA. No reported cases of rot. Now I had to open this. It was sealed. T.N. Sympathy. Because it says on the back, includes the original theatrical release trailer plus the short Darkness into Light. There was nothing about that at the LaserDisc database. So I looked up into Darkness into Light at IMDb and found the short from the same year this film came out. The short is, the full name of it is Van Gogh, Darkness into Light, and it was a behind-the-scenes featurette running 21 minutes on the making of Lust for Life. That is Chapter 1, Side 1. Chapter 38, Side 2, is original theatrical release trailer for T.N. Sympathy. This film is about a teenager who is wrongly accused of being homosexual. And he is ostracized for it, except for by one woman. I'm guessing her. Now, one of the things I noticed about this, apart from the fact that it stars Deborah Kerr and John Kerr, is that it also includes in the cast Dean Jones. I'm thinking he must have been one of the teenagers, because in the 60s he made a lot, well, beginning in the 60s, but going into the 70s, he starred in a lot of films for Disney, live action films. 2 hours and 3 minutes. Digital video transfer. MGM UA home video, release ML102138. T.N. Sympathy. Made in 1956. And I'm thinking in 1956, the only way they could have released that film was if he was wrongly accused of being homosexual. Okay, finally, for this film, we have a sealed copy of the original West Side Story. Gatefold jacket. Pressed by Pioneer USA. It's rated as being having a low probability of being a rotter. 1 reported case. This was the only one of all of these LaserDiscs I've just showed you that had any reported cases. It only has one. Now this film was, if I remember correctly, directed by Robert Wise and co-directed by Jerome Robbins. He, of course, would go on, Robert Wise, to direct The Sound of Music. But he did he directed films in every genre you can imagine. Westerns, horror, science fiction. In fact, he directed the Day the Earth Stood Still. He directed the Andromeda Strain. He directed Star Trek: The Motion Picture. This has Natalie Wood, young Natalie Wood. Russ Tamblyn. The only other film I have in my collection with him in it is Tom Thumb, with which is also an MGM film, with Terry Thomas and Peter Sellers as the comedy villains. Okay, so there's that. So like I said, I believe at the beginning, check out Culture Dog's channel. And as I said, I have more LaserDiscs coming, and I have a boatload of DVDs, Blu-rays, and 4Ks that have come in that I need to show. Until next time, stay awesome.